Good morning, folks. Just wanted to give you a quick little update of what I've been up to. Boy, oh boy, have I been busy. It just seems like it has been kind of one thing after another. So I'm set up out here on my porch with my garden and chicken run, temporary chicken run basically, for another few days set up. And it's a rainy, dreary day here in East Tennessee, and trying to get some things done, but the rain definitely proves to make things a little bit difficult. So the last time I had posted anything, we had a bear attack. The chicken run that you should be able to see back in through here with the coop, a bear had actually come from that direction, came down around the house, came back, and ended up going behind, so we couldn't see them. I think it was one bear, went on top of the coop. We have chicken wire, which is not considered to be that strong, and we just did kind of a dome of chicken wire, basically for aerial predators, for hawks and for owls. But one thing that we did do, because we knew that we were in some pretty decent predator areas, is the chicken wire was not wide enough to cover the entire coop. So what we ended up doing was basically almost like with sewing. You have your two pieces of chicken wire, you overlap them like this, and then we did a piece of flexible wire and basically ran a stitch this way and ran a stitch this way. So as each two pieces came together, they were double bound. That really saved our bacon, because that bear, if we had just thrown something up there and not really made it as put together and meshed as well as it had, that bear would have been through there and would have torn a bunch of stuff up. So anyway, we had been busy with trying to address that issue, because everybody has told us that if the bear is there one time, he will be back. And ultimately that proved to be correct. The bear did come back, at least we believe that it came back. We set up a hasty electrical fence. Now what you see here with the yellow standoffs, and then there's wires that go across, that now goes around the entire run and garden. It's electrified. It's got 0.7 joules with a stored joules of like 0.9 or 1 joule. It will reach out and bite you. It really will. We've been zapped by it, and it's not pleasant. It definitely leaves a lasting impression. But at the moment, after we had the bear attack, we did not have enough of the standoffs. And I didn't have a charger. So we had the battery, we had everything, because we knew this was something that was going to end up happening because of where we live. If you see behind me, I mean, I could do a pano around, but it doesn't really matter, because all you see is woods. My nearest neighbor is like 1.5 miles, 2 miles away. I am deep in the woods, and I've got all kinds of things that love to eat chickens. So we knew that this was something that needed to be done, but we got a little bit sidetracked with things, and everything seemed to be okay for the most part, and then, unfortunately you get side blinded by something like this, and you end up having to take care of business really quickly. So the next day I had purchased a charger, a battery operated charger, and we had to get some of the standoffs. And well, I got the charger, and then we did a short version of the electric fence. It actually went through the garden, and it just encased the run. And it worked fine, because that night we had set up a motion alarm back there. Something tripped the motion alarm, something tripped our game camera, and we could tell the chickens were all very upset. So it was probably that bear trying to come back. He, bumped his nose against 1 joule, and he got told, no, you can't come around here no more. So that was great, a good relief that hopefully that was the bear, and he's now been taught a lesson, and he's not going to come around. But there's still lots of other bears around here, and I mean a lot of other bears that are around here. So just because we got rid of one doesn't mean others aren't going to show up. So we redoubled our efforts and got the larger standoffs, because we had this welded wire fence already up to try and keep the deer out and stuff. So got the standoffs, we already had the electrical wire and everything else. So now we have that entire area is electrified. And during the day, for the most part, it's really not a big deal. We don't see basically any type of predator activity out here during the day. Aerial predators would probably be the only thing. We see sparrowhawks around here, but that's about it. It's at night. Nighttime is always the problem time, so get your animals up, get them up early, and turn your electric fences on. And that seems to have saved the day for us. The other thing that we're going to try and do, and it sounds counterintuitive, but it's time. It's just one of those, things that Murphy's Law. The chickens have been in this garden area. I've been letting the chickens, the garden really wasn't productive this year. I grew a few things, but not a lot. And then once I put the chickens out in the run and I let them into the garden, and I ended up putting a bunch of mulch down and everything, and the chickens have been all in there trying to help with the fertilization and the soil improvement and building soil. But they've been in there for really probably too long. They need to get out. So we need to start the process of getting them out and teaching them how to get back in, which is not necessarily an easy thing for, a bird that has a brain that is this big. And chickens are chicken. They're afraid of every damn thing. So getting them to understand that they have a new routine or whatever is a little bit of a challenge. And trying to do it on a rainy day is not really good. So they got a little taste of it this morning. They got put back into the garden because it was proven to be just too much with the rain and their unwillingness to follow prompts. So like it's got to hold for another day. At least when the weather's a little bit better, we might be able to have success. The other thing that I have been dealing with has been up on my bee hill. I have had some yellow jackets that have shown up. Now I don't know where it is where you live, but around here in the fall, the mid fall, when it really starts turning colder, this rain that we're getting is bringing in a cold front. It's 60 something I think right about now. It's gonna rain all day, all night, and then all day into tomorrow, and it's gonna stay about this temperature, which is not horrible bad. But then after that, the cold front's coming in. It's going to be in the 20s, and I don't even know if it's going to get much above 40s or 50s. And sorry for that brief interruption. We had a dog who needed to go out for a second. So anyway, I've changed my perspective to up the hill where my beehives are. And the teal colored hive is my older hive. And it's probably weaker. It seems to be, unfortunately, a thing that happens as I'm learning. Bad management, probably, because I'm new and I don't know what I'm doing with a lot of stuff. There are things that I have read. There's no real consensus that I have been able to determine from the experts. It is as much of an art as it is, a practical application or science. So anyway, there were yellow jackets that were all on the ground in front of the hive, and one of the things that I had found, I had put some sugar in for the hive. I was feeding them because we had been in this drought for like 6 weeks, and there really wasn't anything blooming, so the bees needed a little bit of extra. Well, I think it was the sugar that was the scent attractant for the yellow jackets, because it seemed like that's what they were really more going after than trying to truly get into the hive to rob the honey. But that is a thing that they do too. So it could be that they were doing that and I just couldn't see them for some reason. So I was out there with a bottle of pretty strong soap solution, water and soap solution. I would say it was probably about 20 or 30%. I was using Dawn and water. So a lot of people don't do that. They just do, soapy water. It's soapy water, but it's a pretty strong solution of soapy water. and you spray them, you hit them, and you spray them so that they're pretty well good saturated, and it kills them quickly, which is a great non-chemical way to be able to deal with them. And if you change your spray bottle nozzle to be not a spray but a stream, you can actually kind of get pretty good at aiming and knocking them out of the air, and then when they get on the ground, you just, you know, hit them real hard so that they're in a puddle, and they'll die quickly. So I killed a bunch that were up there. I ended up purchasing some yellow jacket hive traps that I have today, and I need to actually get up there hopefully when the rain stops a little bit, and I'm going to try and put one underneath the hive, because that seems to be one of the places that they were hanging out, and the hive itself will provide some protection for the trap. The other one I was going to do is somewhere in the wood line, but with the rain and everything, I might not be able to put that up just yet today or even tomorrow. The other thing I had purchased was a beetle buster baseboard. Right now what we have, and it's popular around here because we live in the clouds, right? In East Tennessee, we live in the clouds. It is very misty around here. It is as high a humidity, sometimes higher humidity than I had ever experienced in Florida. The deal though here is the humidity can drop, right? So you'll have 99% humidity, and it can stay that way because like the hills and the valleys, the cloud will get stuck in those little valleys, and the humidity is 99.9% because you're in the cloud, and then finally the sun will burn it off, and then the humidity will drop down. Could be into the 50s, 40s, 30s. That does happen, particularly in the wintertime. In the summertime, the humidity tends to stay higher as an average. In Florida, you might have the 99% humidity, but it will lower, it will go down to like maybe, I don't know, 60, 65%. It'll stay that way all day, and then it'll, raise up at night. So you have wild fluctuations with the humidity, and so ventilation is a really important thing around here. And so the thing that people use, you order or you win a hive kit or something like that, is people will get the ventilated bottom boards. It seems, and I'm not sure I understand it completely, it seems that the ventilated bottom boards can cause some problems. I don't know if I understand that completely yet, but at any rate, I am switching out my teal hive with a beetle blaster board because I know I have hive beetles. Everybody has hive beetles. Everybody had told me that. They said that when you get your hive, they're common. They have great noses, and they'll smell the wax or the honey, and they'll make their way to your hive from wherever. And I remember when I got my hive, it was probably about 2 months, maybe 3 months later, that I found my first hive beetle. Do I have a out of control infestation? I don't know. But my suspicion is that was probably the first pest that I ended up having in my hive, and they can have all kinds of diseases, and the bees will expend a lot of energy, corralling the hive beetles and having to deal with them as a problematic intrusion into their hive. Maybe they can handle them on some level if they're kept at a minimum, but once they start getting out of control, I think it just overall weakens your hive, and that will allow for other pests, your wax moths or the varroa mites are another thing. You're always going to have varroa mites around here, but in general, if you can raise the vigor of your hive, the hive has more energy to be able to fight off these pests. So my theory that I'm working on right now, and I'm going to see how it works, is I'm going to use this new baseboard so that hopefully I might do a video just to show how that one works. It's like corrugated, and the bees will chase the beetles down, or they'll fall down, however, and they get into this corrugated area, and the bees will chase them down a hole. The underneath that corrugated area is a separate chamber. The bees can't get into it. It's large enough for the hive beetles to get down in there and their larvae to get down in there that they get chased into, but the bees can't pursue them any further. That chamber underneath is basically like a death trap for them. It is lined, or will be lined, with diatomaceous earth, and when they get in there, they're stuck, they can't go anywhere, and the DE will dry their bodies out, and that's that. So I will do probably like a 24-hour, 48-hour, a week, whatever, check to see how many hive beetles are getting deposited into that area, and then what happens afterwards. I suspect that in general, less hive beetles, the hive will do better. Just kind of a normal common sense thing. Think about, like, if you had a toothache or you had a tooth that had a cavity, your body is fighting an infection. It's not killing you, but there's so much energy that's being expended on that particular health problem. It could be any health problem. You've got an infection in your skin, you have something that's going on, and your body ends up having to fight this. If you can take that off the table, then your body can fight other problems that you have better and more efficiently, or just in general you have more energy and more health to be able to go out and do the things that you need to do. In the bees' case, to go collect pollen and nectar for their hive, and they don't have to expend as much of their energy resources fighting all of these onslaught of things that have been going on. And let me tell you something, right now, with the way things have been going with bear attacks and yellow jackets and just work being super busy because I work off the property, I mean, I feel kind of like the bees right now. I feel like I've been, things have been coming at me at all sides. And one thing that I have learned out here is I don't know a lot. There's a lot I don't know. There's too much that I don't know. I have been trying my best to learn, but wow, it's really humbling and a little even humiliating when you're like, I have no idea. I have no clue. So fortunately, my husband has, he's a great teacher and instructor and has a lot of patience, probably more patience than I have, because, like I said, I feel like I'm way behind the learning curve, and he's shown me a lot of stuff, and he has been really a good sport about that, and he has been very supportive in all the little endeavors that I have done around here, because this was to a large extent why we live here. Is you can't a lot of times do this stuff in the middle of town or even in a suburban neighborhood. The property owners associations and your neighbors would lynch you out in the street, right? So anyway, I hope that may have been helpful for anybody who was looking for information on chickens and bears and beehives and yellow jackets, and I hope all y'all are doing good. Till next time.